Welcome to the Human Evolution Podcast, where we dive deep into the science, philosophies, and strategies that create real and lasting change. I'm Ori Goldstein, and here we leave traditional self-help behind and map the real terrain of true personal development. How has it been being back in the US for you? How's life been treating you to be back stateside?
I really like it. I think everybody should leave for a while and then come back or whatever, because it really does reset your like you don't look, give me a couple weeks, I'll be complaining about everything again, but you really do forget like how good we have it here, even though we have a lot of issues. And I still think that when you watch cable news and look at social media and you see like all the problems, I still think that's a very small percentage of the population, and most people are okay. There's just the loudmouths that are being idiots on either side of politics or elsewhere. But being back here is it's really nice. The conveniences are nice. Everything's brand new. Everybody's got it's so funny. One of the things I always say, I notice when I'm back, is that we're in a neighborhood that's got single family homes, and everybody has like a decent sized yard, it's like a Florida sized yard where the houses are like decent, the front backyard, whatever. And it's like everybody on the block has a riding lawnmower, like a brand new one for the most part. And I'm like, what a fucking, and the thing is, I think it's great that we have this abundance here, but I'm like, what a fucking waste. Like, you'd think, because, we don't have as much sense of community as some places do. You'd think that one street would just all pitch in on one mower. But it's funny, everybody's out there just cutting their little square, and then they go put I'm like, anybody rationally would be like, what is wrong with these people? Because in other countries, some people, there's 30 family members living in one house and they're sharing one car, and we've all got our little mowers here. So, but hey, it's America, man. This country's, we built a lot of cool shit. So, but it isn't lost on me. We do waste some stuff though, for sure. Yeah.
I think that you and I actually discussed this one time before about the fact that the thing that I think is happening in this generation specifically, and I mean, every generation will probably say it the same way, but the thing I really love about this generation is our parents had it so much tougher than we did. And
Yeah.
I mean, we're in such a time of such abundance and so many good things happening that for the first time, I believe in human history, we've got the ability to think about ourselves in ways that we never have before. We really can focus in on psychic issues and on mental health issues, whereas before it was just a matter of like, what are you going to do in the middle of a concentration camp? Be like, you know what, mommy looked at me badly when I was 4 years old. You just don't have that opportunity. And so like in this moment of abundance is when I feel like we're in like the golden age of human development, where we're finally at the place that we can heal generational wounds, and we can actually get rid of stuff that our parents learned from their parents, learned from their parents, learned from their parents. Finally, we're in a place that we don't have to struggle for everything, that we finally have the opportunity to do what's necessary to fix ourselves.
That's a very interesting point, because on the one hand, we have social media and other things, not just social media, but that's a big one, fighting for our attention and trying to take up our headspace. On the other hand, you're right. We do have more time than ever to reflect inward and think about like, why are we doing this? Instead of just like, well, this is the way it's always been done, and we're going to get up, we're going to go to work, and we're going to do all this, and we're going to come home, and this is our schedule for the week. If you're family or not, no family, this is the way it's going to be. Now we're like, why are we doing this again? Oh, it's the way we've always done it. Like, okay, but why? Yeah, just thinking about all these things, and
We finally have that opportunity, right?
Yeah, and not having to, go. I mean, I don't want to go too far back, but just having, there's a store on each corner here. If I wanted something, any type of food, Mexican, Indian, whatever, I could probably have it here in 20 minutes tops. And so yeah, so we have more choices than ever, and we have more distractions than ever, but we also have more time to like stop and think and address things. So it's weird. It's a weird time.
It's a tough thing because, like, I mean, there's that saying, the idle mind is a devil's playground, right? Like, so, like, I mean, like, if you don't do the work, you're going to spiral into bad places, which is why I think that we're having more cases of depression, more people being suicidal, more people doing some pretty crazy, insane shit out there. But at the same time, if you are committed to changing your life, this can be the time that you can absolutely get rid of so many things that have been carried through for generations for you. And I mean, like, this is why, like, I'm really excited to actually get a chance to talk with you, because, like, I mean, I can see that you're carrying around stuff that your mom learned from her mom, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
And I'm finally at the position, and you're in the position in your life where we can actually do something and shift all those things.
Yeah. And and we don't no longer have to be like, if I was in my little small town where I grew up, which is a wonderful town. Well, it was when I was there, maybe not now, but your options are limited for like who you interact with, who you work with, who you can seek out for help. We can have access to anybody now that's also detrimental. So, mental health help. There are apps for it now. Do I know much about those, or would I promote one or over the other? I just don't know enough, but at least there's something there. Like there's help there. What's been your experience with those things lately, or have you looked into that, or do you know anybody who's had a good or bad experience? Because I know there's a lot of reputable platforms, but I'm wondering, are these all licensed people behind this? What's the deal there?
I love that you actually asked that question because I mean, literally 2 months ago was the first time I actually went dabbling into those platforms. So my sister's been on BetterHelp now. It's one of those platforms, and I think it's $90 a week, or yeah, so it's about $90 a week, $360 a month, and you talk to a therapist once a week for an hour. And my sister, I can actually see the changes that have been happening in her life. It's just she got herself a great therapist. She spoke to the person. They know each other really well right now. And for the first time in my life, like instead of me trying to fix my sister, I'm in a place right now where my sister has something going on with her. And I'm like, you should probably talk to your therapist about that. And it's just such a wonderful thing to do. But like about 2 or so months ago, Joy, my girlfriend, turned around to me and she said, who do you talk to? And I'm like, I don't need to talk to anyone. I'm doing great. And she's like, but don't you need to process stuff every once in a while? So I jumped on BetterHelp myself. And so now to tell you the good and the bad of it, I jump on BetterHelp and they assign you a therapist right away. And I talk to the therapist, and probably about 20 minutes into the session, and like they'll say like, I mean, that sometimes like, for example, I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but sometimes doctors make for the worst patients. About 20 minutes into the session, I just turned around to the therapist. I was like, I don't think this is going to work. It was a real pleasure talking to you. Have a great day. Bye. And I just like, I couldn't even make it through the whole hour. It was just like, I'm out of here. But like it's like I ended up going through 5 different therapists, and they make it very easy to swap. And I ended up finding one that I really really like, and it was really great. I had a session with her 2 days ago. Today is Tuesday. I had a session with her yesterday. So I had a session with her yesterday, and it was like my second session with her. So I was like, okay, fine. So now let me just throw down everything. I'm just going to tell you my whole childhood. This is where it started. This is how this happened. This is how this happened. This is how this happened. And just having a person to just share all those experiences with and talk through everything, and have the person kind of like just exactly what I try to be for people. But like, I mean, I can say that she is a very gifted trained therapist in the way that she does it. Have a person validate your feelings and sit there saying, I understand that perhaps you feel sorry for your mom, but this isn't a time to feel sorry for your mom. What happened to you is terrible. And just have a person in that moment just validate for you that, you know what, this was a bit of a crazy situation. I left that therapy session going like, I get it. Like, I mean, this is a really, really powerful thing. And for $90 a session, or like, I mean, you get discounts, whatever it is along the way for however much it ends up costing me a session. It's a really amazing tool. And it's available to everyone in the world right now. It's all trained therapists. And yeah, you might have to do some shopping around, but you end up finding someone really good at the end of it.
It reminds me of like I knew all the tools and I knew all the things before, and I'm like, no, I got this. But it's also refreshing. Like obviously, like you do this kind of thing for a living. Maybe there's some dentists that are like, no, I can know how to. I know how many times I need to floss. God damn it, like you're not going to tell me what to do. So that's like, but I love the fact that these apps have, or the online platforms, like you mentioned, you have the ability to like to connect with somebody and then decide if it's not a good fit. There's really no hard feelings. You don't know them anyway. It probably happens to them all the time, so they're used to whatever. And then you have like so many choices, because again, if this was 40, 30 years ago and you're in whether small town, whatever, there's only going to be so many mental health professionals in
There's the
your.
one town therapist, right?
Yeah, and you see that fucking guy at the grocery store. You probably see him at the bar, So yeah, no, that's
And I
that's
found that
really
really
nice.
funny. So like Joy, for example, she got a therapist at the beginning, and at the end of her session, she says to me like, "It's you know what, I didn't really like her," and so I'm like, "So why don't you break up with her?" And it feels like it's Tinder. It's really like swipe left, swipe right kind of thing. I'm like, "So why don't you break up with her and try a different one?" She wrote like this whole long message going like, "It was such a pleasure talking to you, but like you know what, I want to try out someone else, whatever it is." I didn't even think of like messaging my therapist. I was just like, change therapist. That was it. I was done. It was over. I was as happy as could be. To me, I love the convenience of the app of it. And like you said, it's, I mean, it's, if if what I did hurt the therapist's feelings, they probably have a lot that they need to work with. It's like, and it's the same thing with me and my clients. Like, I mean, like, I don't need a client to give me an excuse as to why they don't feel that I'm right for them. If they don't feel like they're getting a shift with me, go find the person that is right for you, because I've got enough people in the world that I can help. So like, it's just, it's one of those things. It's like, this isn't about ego. It's about you finding the help that you deserve. Given what's out there right now, you've got the best possible scenario to make that happen.
Yeah, that reminds me of something I was thinking about on my walk this morning, just having access to all the mental health professionals. And then obviously we're kind of over medicated as a society. I also know that there's another side to that where I can't remember who was making the point. Maybe it was Rogan, maybe it was Bill Maher. I don't know, but there are. I wonder how much we're actually overdoing it. And I want to be careful here, because I know that a lot of people have a lot of problems, myself included. It's almost like everybody feels like they need to have a disorder these days. Like everybody has to be a victim, and so I feel like there's a lot of that going on. So I wonder, not to take this down a dark turn, but you know what I mean?
No, it's the exact opposite. You hit the nail on the head for me. It's like, there's this one person in our lives, for example, that my girlfriend many times has told me, like, I mean, why don't you work with her? And I've specifically told her so many times, it's just like, because this person completely associates with her diagnosis. She's not looking for help. She's basically, this is who she is. And until she's ready to dissociate from that diagnosis, all I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be kicking the wheel down the road with her. I'm just going to be kicking that can down the road. And this is what tends to happen, that when a person does, like we said, the idle mind is a devil's playground. When a person gets so stuck in their diagnosis, or so stuck in the fact that they need help, all that they're doing is that they're trying to find someone else out there that can help them validate how messed up and broken they are. And we've spoken about this before. And this to me comes back down to the one tenet of my core philosophy, which is you're trying too hard. It's back to that thing of, you're not really trying to fix it. What you're doing is you're stuck in the mindset of, I'm broken, and you're doing things because you know that this is what you need to do. But in the back of your head is that thought of, but I'm not really going to get better. I'm just stuck with this diagnosis and I know it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said before too, about the attention aspect of it, about how, like, we use the example of the person with the hurt back. And sometimes people hold on to things, whether it's a physical ailment or a mental thing, and not everybody, of course, but because they're like, well, I'm getting a lot of attention for this now. I get special treatment for certain things, so they don't want to change, because subconsciously, whatever it is, they don't want to lose that validation, that attention they get for certain stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's in psychology as a whole, it's something called secondary gain, and it is such a huge thing to deal with. And it's the whole idea of creating what we call ecological solutions. You want a solution that works with everything, and the secondary gain is also dealt with. Otherwise, like, and we've discussed this so many times, what ends up happening is you get a change, but you revert back to it, or you find another way to get that secondary gain met. If, for example, you are too shy to approach women and you start developing agoraphobia and afraid to leave the house, I might be able to get you to leave the house, but then what will happen is you're going to start developing some kind of eczema on your face, for example, that will then give you the next problem, that why you can't meet the woman. Until you get over the shyness of meeting the woman, you're going to keep on having these other symptoms show up that actually are things that you need to deal with. And then if you go even deeper, until you get the strong self-esteem to become the person that's not shy of being rejected in the first place, you're going to actually you're going to have even more issues happening.
I was listening to a couple of podcasts the other day. It might have been Mel Robbins. She's pretty good.
I
But
like
I was
her.
listening
Yeah.
to, yeah. And there's this thing called, she was talking to some other doctor. There's a thing, oh God, what's it called now? Some form of depression. It was some form of depression, but it's like, I can listen to stuff like that. I'm like, oh, I have all those symptoms, like what's the Dr. Google
Dr.
thing.
Google.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering, like, these days with all the mental health crises that we have, I wonder if any feeling that one has during the day, if you looked it up, like if my nose was itching right now, they'd be like, you've got
It's
cancer in your nose.
cancer.
Exactly. So, I mean,
Yeah.
do you find, or have you had people come to you that have, like, they show up and they're like, Ori, I think I have these 10 things because I looked it up. It has to be a thing.
What generally ends up happening in that case, I believe that I actually, my saying that I generally say to people is, the fight you're having is not about the issue that's really going on. So for example, when a couple comes to me and they start complaining about the fact of, like, do you know what, she never takes out the trash, or he never pays attention to me. I'll always say that that's not really the issue that's going on. It's, if you pay attention, there's something much deeper that's really happening. So I'm actually upset with him because he never tells me he loves me, and my love language isn't being met. And so the way that it's manifesting for me is the fact that I'm upset with him for not taking out the trash, because that's something that's easy for me to complain about. And in the same way, when a person comes to me with a laundry list of symptoms and sits there saying, like, you know what, I have fibromyalgia and cancer and a spinal problem and my eyesight is messed up, generally what I'm understanding there is that there's something inside of them that feels so broken or so messed up that they're seeing all these symptoms, and in their mind, the real identity that they're associating with is the I am broken or there's something wrong with me identity. And when we shift that, all of a sudden they start seeing that all these things that they were seeing is just, it's not really that big a deal. And so it's, to me,
Yeah.
it's getting down to the core issue as to what's going on.
So
And it's back to that secondary gain idea.
I think we both would agree that because the mind body connection, obviously, we've learned over the last so many years. When I say we, I mean society. That things used to be treated like separately, right? The mind would get treated separately, the body would get treated, and we've learned over the last, I don't know how many years, where there's been some serious studies performed that things are very connected. Like, you could have something that's been bothering you, some underlying stress that may not even be apparent to you during the day, and you have terrible back problems. And it turns out it's not even anything physiological. It's just something going on in your mind, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And that people can have all these underlying problems and work themselves up into all types of physical ailments, skin conditions, you name it. I mean, that just blows my mind.
I can't tell you. I mean, like, obviously, the emotional alchemy process I'm talking about. And I see this on a daily basis with people, in the fact of, like, a person comes in with chronic pain, and as soon as they just release all these emotions that they have pent up inside of them, their anger at their parents, their frustration with their children, their frustration with work, all of a sudden their chronic pain goes away. Or it's, I mean, when you, it's, I can never say I cured cancer, because I never believe that I did. But when a person comes to you with a cancer diagnosis and they start releasing all these pent up emotions, and they realize all these terrible things that happened to them in childhood, and they finally release them, and then finally, out of nowhere, the medicine that they're taking starts working. And they start actually getting these amazing results from the same medication that wasn't working for them for 6 months before that. So to me, that brain body connection is everything. And you'll see it actually when you go for the Vipassana retreat. It's by the time I left the Vipassana retreat, and I know I said this to you before, I believe that there's no such thing as an issue that is not somaticized. It all starts in your brain, and then your body will end up keeping the score. And I can just tell you from my own personal history, and I don't want to get into too many details about it, but like when I was 14, had a huge family crisis happen. And I remember I was just thinking about this a couple of days ago. So it was a huge family crisis. And like maybe I didn't ever connect the dots on it, but like maybe about 3 weeks later, I look in the mirror and I have a bit of a cold sore. And I've had cold sores before. It's not a big deal. And within a week, this cold sore just kind of like erupted over my face, and my whole face just got like covered with just like these huge sores. And I was treating it. I was putting all the creams on it, everything else. Finally, the cold sore went away and everything got treated after like 3 months, whatever it was. And then I started getting cystic acne, which affected me for 12 years of my life. But I mean, like, the kind of acne that I was taking all the different kind of medications, everything else. And I don't find it to be too large a coincidence that my acne really started clearing up at about the same time that I started doing really deep hypnosis work on myself. It's like, and I mean, when you talk about something like acne, or like the fact that you get cold sores or something like that, they just don't seem to be something that would be happening through your brain. But at the end of the day, if you've got bad things stored inside of you, that energy is going to be messing things up. It's going to weaken your immune system. It's going to be creating stress responses. It's going to be messing up every single part of your neurochemistry, and that will just show up in physical symptoms.
Yeah, I would bet it's safe to say that most people, if not all of us, have some form of, or some people have a lot of trauma to deal with from their childhood. Because the thing is, all pain and all trauma is personal. So one person may go through a lot as a child that we would all be like, holy
love that
crap.
statement.
Yeah, I mean, somebody could be like, I went through this. I was raised in a war zone in Ukraine, whatever. Like, oh my God, that's terrible. And you could have somebody that, well, like me, for example, that grew up in a, safe little neighborhood. And so I think when people think about this, they need to realize that if they look back and they're like, oh, I had it pretty good. It's like, that doesn't matter. Like because to you, to your mind and body, that trauma is real. So it doesn't even have to be something egregious or crazy. If something bad happens to me this week, I'll know, like, hey, this is what I should do. We need to talk this out. But like, how many people have the tools when they're a kid? So it's almost by default, anybody or everybody should have something inside of them, because even if it wasn't that bad, quote unquote, when they were a child, nobody has the tools to deal with those things at that age anyway. So that would lead me to believe that inside of everybody, there's something that needs to come out, even if it's just one thing.
Lee, I absolutely love that you said that, because to me, like, that absolutely hits nail on the head. And I think I said this to you in a previous session. I don't think that's something that we published. But to me, like, my core philosophy is every single one of us, bar none, 8 billion people in the world have had abusive childhoods. There's no way to get out of childhood and not having suffered some kind of an abuse. Now, I'm not saying that that abuse needs to be the fact that you were burnt with cigars, but it does matter. It does mean that when you were a child, something happened to you that you didn't feel in that moment resourceful enough or intelligent enough to actually deal with. And what ended up happening was it left a psychological scar. Like, I mean, it's just given the kind of work I'm in, I've done regression work on people, and I've had people that came to me that were raped from the age of 3 weeks old, kind of thing. Like, I've seen those kind of terrible things. For me, one of my terrible traumas, and I say it like it's definitely a lowercase t, but it was something that really affected me, was when I was 4.5 years old and we left South Africa and we left my dog behind. It sounds like something so small, and it really is. I mean, in comparison to everything else, insanely small. It's like, don't get me wrong. But to the child that didn't know what was going on and wasn't explained things well, and from one moment to the next, a dog that was in the family from the moment he was born, that dog was a family member. And one moment to the next, like, my parents were like, okay, fine, say goodbye to Sandy, we're leaving. And to me, it was like saying goodbye to a parent. It's not to say that that in any way should be put on the same scale as a person that had these terrible, horrendous traumas that occurred to them. But to me, that was an abuse that occurred in my childhood that I actually still needed to heal in order to get myself to become a healthy, functional adult. So it doesn't need to be the big things. It just needs to be the big things for you.
We can all think back and remember things that were traumatic. But do the things that really affect people that cause like some physical ailments and things like that, can those be caused by things that we do remember and we're just not associating the two? Or does it have to be, do you think it has to be something underlying that it just affects us so much that we blocked out?
So to me, it's a really, really interesting thing. It's like, and I've seen this with myself and with other clients, that what ends up happening is once you actually deal with an issue, they'll actually tell you, and I can tell you from my point of view, they'll tell you, you know what, I always knew that was back there, but I just, every single time I thought about it, I just kind of like brushed it away. And that's what the brain does. It's not that you don't have a memory of these certain things. It's just that your brain just knows to kind of like ignore that, to put that into the shadow. And so in the back of your mind, do you know what? Yeah, I do know that someone came into my room when I was young, or something along those lines, whatever that is. But your brain sits there saying, oh, but that's not important, or I don't want to think about that. Like, but so you know what? It must be about the fact that my teacher looked at me funny when I was 8. That's definitely it. That's what I want to talk to Ori about. And the beauty that when you actually can get down and you can actually follow the emotion down, and there's a specific way to do it, when you can follow the emotion down to the core, to the root cause of how it started, you can actually find this is the first time I experienced it, and this is the real cause of it. And every single person after a fact will tell you, and I think I actually told you the story. I absolutely love this story. And so forgive me if I repeat myself, but I had this client that came to me that I knew for a fact had been abused as a child. It was just, she showed all the symptoms. So we did all the hypnosis and everything else, and we did regression work. And in the regression work, I did tell you the story. In the regression work, she started telling me about an alien abduction. And so we did all the regression work around alien abduction. And then after we did all that work, like after everything was healed, she then finally said to me, do you know what? Oh, I was also molested as a child. And to me, that's kind of like the way that it works, in terms of the fact that when you actually heal the stuff, the things that you've been pushing away and not paying attention to, you can bring it into the light. Whether you look at it or not, you don't seem to care so much about it anymore. But your brain, it does something very specific in terms of the fact of, because it's afraid of something, it will push it away, and it doesn't want to look at it. So you always want to look at the stuff that the charge is making you either make it much bigger than it needs to be, or specifically kind of like ignoring it as much as possible.
Let's say if I came to you and I'm like, hey, I think I got something going on. I think there's something from my childhood, whatever. Would I need to be, before we started going deep into something, would I have to be convinced that that the process is going to work? Or do you find that people come to you and they're like, yeah, I'm not sure about all this. Just do what you got to do, and then we'll see what happens. Then they end up becoming surprised, like, holy shit, this actually worked. Like, do people come in and they're like, I'm just here because you know what I'm getting at. So
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd call it 50-50. I mean, like it's you get some people that come in and they're at the end of it, they're like, I came here on like just like a hope kind of thing, and like I can't believe that this actually worked for me. But then there's other people that come in and they are just so sure that it's going to work that I can almost basically sit there and like twiddle my thumbs and they will get the cure because they just have so much belief in me because of the way that it's their friends told them about me or whatever they've learned about me over the time. But it's at the end of the day, the only thing that really, really matters is the fact that the person trusts me enough to let me guide them into that place. It's and as soon as they trust me to guide them there, and they know, and that's the element of building the rapport and building the trust and building that sense of you know what, it's I'm not going to leave you in a bad place, and I know if you do get to a bad place, what to do with you. That once they build that trust and they let me take them there, everything works out great.
you don't have to believe in it 100%, and you can be a little skeptical, but as long as they trust the process, they trust you, then and they're open-minded to it enough, I would
Yeah.
imagine that helps things move along quite quickly. Otherwise,
And
it'd be years
and
and years ago.
And you also saw for yourself. I mean, like I mean, we often talk about hypnosis because it's definitely like one of the more mystical things out there kind of thing that I do. But there's so many other techniques, stuff that we've actually done together that has nothing to do with hypnosis, just about the way your brain wires things together. For example, people very often have an issue in their minds because that they just have a certain way of thinking about it. So for example, every single time that they think about public speaking, they have a picture in their mind about the time that they messed up in eighth grade, or they have a
Mhm.
picture in their mind about the one time that they got criticized or that they wet their pants in sixth grade, whatever it is. And so what you can do in that moment is when the person talks to you, if you pay very close attention, you'll notice that they look up as they start tensing, as they start doing that. So you realize that there's a picture that they're looking at that's tensing up their body. And all you sometimes have to do in that moment is just change that picture for that person. And you tell them, look up in the same location. And I now want you to see in in place of that picture, I'd like you to see a picture of people cheering for you and people loving you and you doing a great presentation. And sometimes just changing a picture, this doesn't have to be about huge hypnosis or anything else, but just getting a person's brain to process through the thing differently can completely change the experience for the person. So this doesn't need to be a deep trance thing of like sit back, relax, and close your eyes. It's really just a matter of understanding how the brain works. Where's the belief formed? What are the pictures that the person's associating with? What are the sounds that the person's associating with? What are the kinesthetic sensations the person's associating with? And breaking those connections. As soon as you can do that, you can completely change a person's life.
I experienced it myself. Just a couple exercises that we did. I was on board with it, of course, and I was, open to all. But I couldn't believe how well it worked. I don't remember if that's the day. One of those two times I had to go sleep afterwards, and then the other time I did feel good for the rest of the day, though. So I mean, it really does. It works on all different levels. Look, my view on any type of therapy. This is my opinion. If I come out of something feeling better than when I went in, I don't have to feel euphoric. It doesn't have to be amazing, but just leaving and just feeling in a better place than going in. I think that's a win for me. So
I actually see it as if the brain actually developed a better tool. If you actually developed a better perspective, if you shifted a belief, or if you actually have a tool that you can start using from that point forth, then to me, it was a great session. Like with you, it's obviously the people in the group can know a bit more about what it is that we're talking about. But with you, we specifically did a kinesthetic release to help your vagus nerve actually figure out a way to relax.
yeah.
And it was actually a very, very simple thing. But it's these simple things, when you practice them, can completely change everything.
The mind body connection, which it's again, it's fascinating. And I know that now, they're studying this at Stanford. I know they're studying Joe Dispenza's work at Stanford now, which it's about time. Because
Yeah.
even look, if nothing came of it, somebody should be studying it it should be scientifically investigated. So it's so crazy to me. Like I remember your story from the retreat with the drown proofing, or like being put in the pool.
Hmm.
Then when you went to sleep at night, you felt like somebody hit you with a board, or like there was some release in there. You were like, what the hell? The things
And
that people can heal themselves and also hurt themselves.
and the stories I can tell you, it's just really, really amazing. I remember one time, I did a Hail Mary. I decided to try it. I had a person come to me with bad eyesight, and I just did hypnosis, and I regressed him back to like being 5 years old when he had good eyesight. Then I decided to try something. I told him, hold on to those eyes and now grow up through age until today. And he opened up his eyes and was like, I can see better. And we had him reading out of a phone book. Like, I mean, like in a way that he was never able to do before. It's the number of people I was actually I was known for this for a short period of time, but the number of people I managed to get over actual physical allergies, like life-threatening allergies, by just doing a very simple hypnotic technique with them and actually teaching their immune system to relax and stop with the phobic response I was having towards allergen. And right in front of you, a person that was allergic to eggs, you get the EpiPen, you get everything ready, and all of a sudden the person's eating an omelet in front of you, and you're like, holy shit, like, I mean, this is a life-changing moment, and you did something so simple. It's the amount of stuff that the brain can fix. I don't think that we've even begun to scratch the surface. And then you have
Yeah,
people like Joe Dispenza. I remember in the Joe Dispenza course itself, like, I mean, I started talking to this woman who had, I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but basically she had a surgery to remove part of her rectum because of cancer. And she did the Joe Dispenza meditations, and every meditation she started imagining stretching out her intestines. And after 6 months, she went back for another colonoscopy to check, or another MRI or CAT scan to check, whatever it was. And the doctors were like, we must have messed up in the first one, because I mean, it doesn't look like anything was removed.
okay.
It's like she grew back a rectum, for God's sakes, just by visualizing it clearly enough while in a deep enough state of relaxation. It's the human brain. Its capabilities, I think, are beyond our wildest imaginations.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about this stuff all day. I have a really dumb story from when I was a kid, but it's very along the lines of what you're saying. Speaking of allergies, so we had horses growing up, and there's nothing worse than going to bale hay in the summer months, because in the winter it's too cold. So in the summer you have to go get a lot of hay and go put it in the barn. And this is a very light version of what we've been discussing. So I was like, I was faking. I probably shouldn't say this, but my mom watches this. I was faking that I had allergies. I was like, oh, I can't help you bale. Hey, I need to be in the truck. I need to drive the truck. And here I am, like, what a dick. Like, I'm the boy. My sister and my mom are out there throwing hay on the trailer, and I'm driving the truck. The thing is, I didn't have allergies, but I said it for a few times, and then all of a sudden I have had the worst hay fever, probably up until maybe 2 years ago. And I'm very suggestible, so I usually have pretty bad allergies. I haven't thought about allergies, and I've been back in the States now. I've been in places that have a high, like, pollen or high allergen count. Not a single problem. But if somebody comes up to me like, "Hey, didn't you used to have allergies?" I'll be like, "Shit," it's that, because I am that guy. Or like, "Hey, everybody's sick in here. Shouldn't you be sick?" I'm like, "Maybe I am," But it's weird though. Like, even that little tiny stupid example with the allergies, I literally brought that. I believe it. I brought that on myself because I kept telling myself, I have allergies. I have allergies. And all of a sudden it was miserable. What a stupid thing. But that's the power of the mind, man. It's weird.
But that's not a stupid example. I mean, like, quite honestly, like, that is the example. That's the 4 minute mile example right there. That is proof to
Yeah.
yourself about like how much you can control with your brain. Now obviously you can just say that's a stupid example. When I was a kid, I managed to give myself allergies. Or you can say, when I was a kid, I managed to, just by imagining stuff, program my immune system to actually program histamine response to give me hay fever. If you think that that is what you are capable of doing, think about what you can do. Like, for example, your girlfriend's uncle. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, using the right kind of visualization techniques, he can actually program his immune system to actually fight off cancer.
Yeah.
It's been proven over and over again that this is not a joke. Like, this is the real deal. This stuff changes people's lives. And Joe Dispenza, again, is just the reason I love him is the fact that he's got, like, whatever it is, 2,000 testimonials on his YouTube channel of people saying, I used to have cancer. I did this meditation. Doctors have no clue what happened, but all of a sudden my cancer's gone.
Yeah.
And it happens in a very real way. And your stupid story is just proof for you, like, just another average guy, like, for you personally, you can actually see that you can do it. But like, if anyone watching this can see the fact that if Lee could just give himself allergies, maybe I can get rid of my allergies. That's huge.
Yeah, that's a good point. You always have a way of framing things to make it sound better. Here I am thinking, like, what a dumb thing to do. I'm like, oh, it actually just exhibits that I actually have some control. Well, anyway, I'm going to have to spend the next 24 hours working on my knee mentally, visualizing.
You joke about it, but like, I mean, and we actually spoke about you doing the emotional alchemy journal, but like, I would say, like, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to heal your knee, but you definitely aren't going to hurt it anymore. It's like,
Right.
I mean, give it a try. Let's see what it does for you.
As we kind of come to a close here, is what's the harm in trying? And we talked about a little bit at the beginning. We were talking about cancer and everything else, like, and that's an extreme example, but like, what do you have to lose, even if you're skeptical, giving something a try at least one time? And then if it doesn't work, you can talk all the shit you want and say, these guys don't know what they're talking about. But I think that that's a powerful thing, is just having the open-mindedness and being willing to try, whether it's journaling or anything else that we, usually touch on. So just do it once, man. Life
Yeah.
is not short, but we do waste a lot of it. I can't remember who said that, but we do spend a lot of time railing against things and not being open-minded enough.
I mean, there's so many more things that we need to discuss in a future podcast for sure. But like, it's
Yeah.
just, it's back to that exact same topic that I said so many times. You're trying too hard. You're so busy stuck in your problem that you're trying to fix it instead of just fixing it. It's like, if you can just believe, just even for a second, that this problem is fixable and you're not stuck in the limiting mindset of that this is never going to change, the changes that can start happening for you are literally miraculous.
Before we go here, we've got this episode will go out on Thursday the 23rd. Oh shit, there's that thing again with the we got with a little hand signal. Why would it do it after I scratch my shoulder? On Thursday the 23rd, and we've got a challenge coming up. Do you want to give us a little bit of information on that?
I'm really, really excited about this. So actually on June 3rd, we're going to be launching our first free Emotional Alchemy Bootcamp. It's a 5-day bootcamp where every single day I guide you through, you just join me for a few minutes every day and I guide you through the entire Emotional Alchemy journaling process. It's really well structured. I believe, very, very high quality content that you're going to be receiving. And if you just stick with me for 5 days, the changes that people are going to experience, I think, is just going to prove exactly like what we just discussed, how much you can change in your life by just changing your mind. And it's a completely free program. It's going to be launching on June 3rd, and that will be the start of a 30-day process after that, that again will also be free. And so I'm really excited to see how many people can change with this.
Absolutely, I love it. Well, sounds good. To be continued.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey everyone, it's Lee. Just one more thing before you go. If you've ever wondered if journaling could change your life, you can find out for free by downloading the Emotional Alchemy Journal from the link in the description. Also, if you're looking to connect with people who are just as passionate about growth as you are, check out our Facebook community. It's a great place to discuss what you've heard on the podcast and get access to exclusive content and sessions that are only available there. Just search for Human Evolution Movement on Facebook, or you can find the link in the description. Until next time, keep challenging the chaos within, be a little kinder to yourself, and let's continue to evolve together.